remember lying to Tony Satterfield, and I remember looking him in the eye on many occasions.
And lying to him?
Yeah.
Okay. Lying to his family?
I lied to his family. I don't know if I did it in person, but I know I had phone conversations with him where I lied to him.
That was disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh admitting that he lied to the Satterfield family. That testimony was from his double murder trial in which he was convicted of killing his wife Maggie and his son Paul. Now, despite the conviction, Murdaugh was still facing a series of financial charges, several of which concerned his former housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. Satterfield died after a fall on Murdaugh's Moselle property. Murdaugh then proceeded to dupe the family out of more than $4 million in settlement money. And as a result, Murdaugh was set to go to trial at the end of this month. And then, at a pretrial hearing last week, word broke of a possible plea deal. And Murdaugh once again told the court that he was guilty.
Mr. Murdaugh, aside from the count or the indictment that you are pleading guilty on the Alford, aside from that particular one, do you disagree with any of the facts stated by Mr. Waters?
I agree that I wrongly took all of that money, Your Honor, and did all of those crimes. I disagree with some of the narrative, but not the essential elements of the facts of the crimes.
And do you believe that if you were to proceed with a jury trial on these charges that you would be found guilty?
I am guilty, and yes, sir, I believe that I would be found guilty.
All right. Mr. Harpootlian and Mr. Griffin?
Nothing, Your Honor. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else with regard to the guilty pleas that you'd like to say today, Mr. Murdaugh?
No, sir, other than I'm glad to finally be given the opportunity to plead guilty. I am happy to be pleading guilty to these charges for a number of reasons.
All right, thank you.
All right, so what exactly did Murdaugh plead guilty to? The charges included money laundering, stealing from his clients and his law firm, and obtaining a signature on the false pretenses. And a number of charges were not included in the plea, and when they weren't included, they were dismissed. So in total, Murdaugh pleaded guilty to 22 charges out of a possible 100 that he was facing. And as I said, the others just went away. They were dismissed. And for those 100 charges he originally faced, he was facing more than 1,000 years in prison. After whittling the charges down to 22, he faced a total of 240 years in prison. But now, with this plea, the South Carolina Attorney General's office will recommend that he serves 27 years, of which, under South Carolina law, he will serve 85% or just shy of 24 years in prison. The sentence will run concurrent with the 2 life sentences he is currently serving for the murder of his wife and son. All right, let's bring back in the think tank. Still with us, trial attorney Ann Bremner, former police lieutenant Rick King, and I don't think we got trial attorney Ben Chew back, but we're still working on that. Let me begin with you, Rick. At the end of the day, this was an offer made by the Attorney General's office. Do you think it was a sweetheart deal?
I mean, at the end of the day, here's where we are. He's serving 2 life sentences. I think, and I've never had a client come up and say, I'm happy to plead guilty at this point. I was like, well, I've just never heard that. But however, I mean, at the end of the day, he was going to be found guilty. He committed those crimes, and I think he just wanted to be done with it so he can get it back to whatever he's doing in prison and move on with his life, because that was going to be just a waste of time and a waste of the court's time. And so we're moving forward.
And so do you think that was the motivation for the Attorney General to come forward with this plea? I mean, I will say this. There is an appeal out there for his murder convictions. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they must be pretty confident that that's not going to be an issue the way they decided to go with this.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's kind of like they're half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. I mean, when you look at this, And I'm happy to be pleading guilty. I thought that was a little bit of a Southern charm coming back, right? I'm pleased to be pleading guilty. You know, like Rick said, it's like, I don't think I mind saying that. But, you know, he's just happy to get this behind him, and he's got this appeal and this other issue that he thinks is red hot in his murder case. And that's what he wants to pursue.
Yeah, and you know, Murdaugh is not without his charm. I can tell you that. You know, there's something about this guy. You can see where he can do people. And I think we have Ben Chu back now. Ben, do we got you?
We do.
Oh, fantastic. Great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And so I got to ask you, you know, I've been sort of trying to figure out how people feel about this deal. He took this deal. He's going to serve probably about 24 years or so, provided he stays out of trouble. And again, that's, you know, that's no small thing, I think, for Murdaugh at this point. But anyway, I want to get your thoughts on the deal in this case. The fact that it's about 27 to 24 years and is going to run concurrent with his life sentences for the murders of his wife and son.
Yeah, I agree with the idea that I think this is the least of his problems, and I think they're pretty confident that the murder conviction will stand up. So this, to some extent, is, though these are serious crimes, I think it's a bit of a sideshow.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And you know, Rick, he took an Alford plea, and it kind of was reflected in that statement that you're talking about, because in addition to saying he was happy to take the plea, he also said he didn't agree with some of the facts. An Alford plea essentially means that you agree the state has enough evidence to convict you, but and you're guilty, but not necessarily of that crime. What is the practical effect of them deciding on an Alford plea in this case?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it really doesn't have any effect at all. I think he is pleading guilty, whether it's an offer plea or a straight up plea or a plea to the court. He's taking a plea and he's going to go to prison, where he remains today for the murders of his family. He does not have, there's no benefit to him at this point for the Alford plea or there's no promise of a better ending. He's still going to be in prison for 2 life sentences. And I also don't believe that there is going to be, unlike probably what he believes, I don't think there's going to be much turnaround or merit to the appeals that he has either. I think those are they seem to be dwindling.
Yeah. All right. Now, what is even more interesting about this particular deal is that it actually could fall apart. Robert Kittle, a spokesperson for the South Carolina Attorney General's office, said this: if Judge Newman doesn't agree with the 27 years, the whole deal is off. The negotiated agreement is for those charges with that sentence, so he can sign off on the whole thing or reject it. He can't recommend his own sentencing, as you might see sometimes. And with sentencing scheduled for next Tuesday, November 28th, the big question remains, what will Judge Newman decide to do? Ann Bremner, I'm going to ask you. Certainly, there's been some issues between he and Murdaugh and his attorneys. He recused himself from the murder case altogether, not wanting to cause any problems. Your thoughts on what he might do?
He might just throw the book at him. I mean, what did he say during the sentencing? Like, I hope that your family members visit you in your dreams. I mean, you know, it was kind of like, you don't hear that kind of thing in Seattle from judges, you know, that he really came down on him. So he might just, you know, they might not get the sentence, you know, I don't know if he can go exceptional. I don't know what the terms are there, but I think he's going to be really tough on him. Yeah,
and he doesn't, Judge Newman, just to be clear, he can reject the deal and then the parties have to go back to the negotiating table. He can't say, okay, I don't think 27 is enough, I'm going to give you 50. He can't do that. He can just reject the deal. Ben Chu, I want to talk about this idea of the possibility of his appeal being successful. I mean, there's been a lot of affidavits going back and forth. There's some question as to some conversations that were had, maybe some misunderstandings, and I believe there is going to be a hearing at this point, but it sounded like you don't think there's much merit to it.
No, I'm not very sanguine about his appeal. I think the verdict is going to stand.
Rick, do you agree?
I agree with Ben. I don't think that, I think he's going to remain in jail, and I think the plea is going to keep dwindling away right now.
All right. All right, so Murdaugh will be back in court right after the holiday, and of course, we'll be all over that for you guys. That's all we have time for.